This is Scratch Your Own Itch, the one show that delivers the conversations that we're afraid to share, but need to. This show is all about creating a life worth living. I'm Logan Tyler Nelson, and I'm your host. So, you're going to hear conversations with creators and entrepreneurs talk about what they do, their current and past traumas, how they became who they are, and what they are truly curious about. This is the show where we talk about the things we think about a lot, but need to talk about more. Please take note that this show is not a substitute for actually creating a life worth living, because this show will stir your beliefs, make you question what it means to create a life worth living. So my promise to you is to always give you one question to answer for yourself today to start turning your dreams into a reality. Hey ladies and gents, so before I get this interview with Aaron Alexander, I wanted to just say thanks. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to this show, because honestly I knew you can be listening to any other podcast, but you came to mine, which makes me really appreciative. You know, I just had a thought that I know for a fact that you came here for a reason. And some people say, like, you know, everything happens for a reason. Or some people say everything doesn't happen for a reason. But I think the question of doing just the questioning of it, like actually reflecting and musing yourself, it's not a bad idea to ask yourself this. Am I here for a reason? And if the answer is yes, will you commit to it? So I want to ask yourself that question. I would love for you to constantly ask yourself, what am I committing myself to? Action-wise, every single day. And where am I feeling like I need to be somewhere else? Just because based off of my actions and what I do with myself during the day, is it coinciding and aligning with the things that I actually do during my day? So, yeah, ask yourself this. Muse about it. And please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you share this with anybody, I appreciate it so much. So much. And maybe you have a negative thought to yourself today. Maybe the thought is, gosh, why is everyone else so freaking good at everything, but I suck? I want you to really listen to it and flick it off. Just say F you, negative thought. So, yeah, there's a couple of things that you can try out. But I want to give you one specific thing to do today. And that is just to really ask yourself what you're committing yourself to. And based off of those commitments, what are my actions? So, anyways, you guys, thank you so much. Enjoy this interview with the one and only Alex. Actually, it's not Alex. It's definitely Aaron Alexander. So, my curiosity question for you is, have you ever considered that you might be walking, sitting, and sleeping in ways that are harmful to your body? Okay, let me set the tone. Our self-esteem begins with our thoughts. We begin to gain perspective, become aware of the parts we don't like about ourselves. We start comparing our progresses, our bodies, our minds to other people who have nothing to do with us. Our mind has been trained to constantly compare our bodies to one another through social media, television, advertisements. I spent a majority of my life hating every part of myself. When I was 17 years old, I developed anorexia nervosa. 17 years old. I started to recover, but even past recovery, I still find ways to inch my way back into an eating disorder. I started spitting and eating food and spitting it out. Began skipping meals, then binging at night when no one was watching. I started to lose and gain weight due to the constant battle with food and my body. And to be honest, I still continue to have this war with myself. But only recently did I discover the beauty of loving my body and all the power that comes with it. If any of this resonates with you, then please listen to this episode with myself and Aaron Alexander. And as we get into the depth into how to love your body and how you can also align it up again with your thoughts. So Aaron Alexander is the host of the Align podcast, and he teaches us about all the attitudes and adjustments that we can take within functional movement. So without further ado, give a warm welcome to the one and only Aaron Alexander.
Hey man, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, dude, thanks so much for, you have a plethora of content out there. I love your Instagram. Please go check his Instagram out right now if you're listening to this in the car. I don't care if you get in a car accident. You need to check his Instagram out now. Totally kidding. Check it out, though. It's great.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. It's very different. It's very unique in that way.
Cool. What do you appreciate about it?
I like it because it's not just like showing off how good looking of a person you could be, like every other Instagram fitness entrepreneur, I guess, out there. It's more like actually showing yoga movements at work and how to stretch another person out and the healing that you can do with that. And I want to go into that later. But I'd really like to start out with how you got to where you got to by kind of scratching your own itch, which to me is by solving a problem that you maybe have with yourself, and by doing so, you find a way to solve it for other people too at the same time. So, yeah.
Well, so something that stood out for me as you were speaking about your relationship with food and all that is just like, I think language can be a really powerful factor. And, so when we talk about like the war with our bodies, or the war with food and all that, something that has been valuable for me throughout the years is just noticing the language that we use in general, and just, instead of having more like aggressive terms like that kind of puts us in that state of like attack, just changing it to relationship. So something like that is I've been working to cultivate a better relationship with my own body throughout, my whole life. I'm still in the process. I just got back from seeing a vein specialist. I have varicose veins in my legs. And that's something I've been working with for like 18 years or something, since I was a little guy. And I'm still in the process of building a relationship there. So it's been an ongoing thing. But started off destroying myself with improper lifting, being really obsessed with bodybuilding and at a super young age. And then parts started falling off, had all sorts of dislocations and injuries, and then seeking more of a path of how to put the parts back together. So there's a quote from Ida Rolf. She said, like, any gorilla can take the pieces apart. So she's referring to like manual therapy or structural integration, but it takes like a real artist or scientist or master to be able to put the parts back together. That's not actually what she said, but it's a paraphrase. So that's what's really interesting to me these days, is putting it together and cultivating a relationship.
Hey, Logan Tyler Nelson here. I would so appreciate it if you took some time to hit the subscribe button. I really want to just honestly live and give. Why? Because I was told when I was young that if you're feeling down, the best way to feel better is by lifting someone up again. So in an effort to make someone feel less alone, please hit the subscribe button so the podcast has a better chance of being found and making someone feel less alone. And if you're feeling down, hey, it can help you. Know that by hitting that subscribe button, you just did someone a huge favor. So thank you for hitting that subscribe button. That's so cool. That is, so did you go, after you got done with bodybuilding and going through, or well, at least like being interested in bodybuilding, I don't think you've done any shows, have you?
No, the one show. So I was prepping for a show, and then I was too young to actually do it. So I was like all lubed up and shaved down and totally ready to go. And but yeah, it was like it ended up being a weird thing where I wasn't of an adequate age to enter the competition. So no, I actually never competed, but that was the style of lifting that I was doing. And
then after that, did you get a certificate in a practice of some sort and start teaching?
Yeah, I got my first, I think maybe it was like ACE personal training certification when I was 16. And so I started training at LA Fitness, which is, maybe it's not ironic, but I live in LA now, whatever, 16 years later or something. And so that was my first job, was personal training at LA Fitness.
And then going into that, did you find yourself still loving to train? Or I know a lot of personal trainers that will like go into it because they like working out, but then they find that they hate teaching people how to work out.
No, I love it, man. I love relationship again, so I really love the art, practice, science, all those words of communicating, so communicating to a client or a patient or whatever language you use, it's a real dance. And, so that's, if someone doesn't hear you, it's not their fault. It's that you're not adept enough at communicating to them, and maybe they're not at a place where they're able to hear as well. But I think that building that, your practice and be able to communicate to a wide variety of people, that's, to me, is like, it's a really beautiful thing. And so doing training or coaching or manual therapy or speaking or whatever, all of that I find to be really just, it's fun. It's a fun practice to build. So I've always really loved it. So, all right. So I think like a lot of us too, like I think our environment shapes us for who we are. So I'm going to ask this question as best as I can. Do you think right now you're doing something where you're doing it because you truly desire it, or you're doing something because it was based off of someone else's desire? Man, great question. And
hey friends, so let me ask you real quick. Are you someone who's trying to get more visibility? Who's trying to be in front of the crowd? Well, if that's you, I want to let you know that first of all, you're not alone. Second of all, if you want to get on more podcasts, or ones that actually scratch your own itch, meaning maybe you have a book, or a business, or maybe you do speaking, or if you don't yet do speaking, maybe you can, and maybe you'd love to. Well, I put something together for you, and in this little giveaway, I'm going to show you how to pitch yourself or podcasts, and how to actually be professional when you show up so you can be the next authority in your niche, so you can start scratching your own itch. I know what it's like to build something, create something, and then there just be crickets. No one wants that. You need to be seen. You need to be heard because you have a message to share, a message that is worthy of hearing. Podcasts nowadays, more than ever, are being consumed by people. And guess who's actually learning the knowledge that's being shared? It's podcast listeners. It gives you a license to be an authority in whatever area you really dream of being an authority in. So if this at all starts to give you a little itch to scratch, just email Logan at LoganTylerNelson.com. Again, that's Logan at LoganTylerNelson.com.
I think it's a mixed bag. I'd say I'm still kind of sorting all that stuff out. I'm going to I'm doing a Vipassana. It's like a 10-day silent meditation retreat thing here in just a week. And hopefully I'll sort through some of the static bullshit while I'm there, and find a bit more stillness, and hopefully the genuine stuff can pop out of that. Whatever, we'll see. But I do feel present day that I'm genuinely helping people, and I'm in a path to create larger impact towards helping others while helping myself. And so whatever that looks like, I would be pretty well happy with it. I just happen to have been forming, kind of like sharpening my blade in a direction of doing what I'm doing. So it would be a really very interesting transition to like shift that. But I think in the end, all that matters is that you are creating positive impact for those around you. And whatever you do in that, I don't really think it matters. I think just feeling like connected with your community and feeling like you really have a strong purpose and a value. I think as human creatures, we don't really give a shit what that ends up looking like. It's just that there's that we're providing support. By providing support for others, we provide support for ourselves. So I don't know, that wasn't an answer, but it's mixed, I would say.
No, it gives a lot into exactly. Well, I mean, it's a juxtaposition, I think, with balancing it with owning your own desires, and then also realizing that when you're only scratching your own itch and you're not scratching other people's itches, it's kind of hard to just do one or the other.
Yeah, I was just listening to the Dhammapada, which breaks down Buddhism, Siddhartha, and like some of his story and his teachings and stuff. And one of the things it says in there is some Indian term. I'm not even sure. I never heard it before that. But it says a bhikshu. He is a bhikshu who spends each day cultivating their mind and their body, their hands, their feet towards helping others. And if that's what your true goal and destination, intention, journey is, I think a lot of the superfluous, static nonsense just kind of falls off. But as long as you're being overly hyper-focused on selfish desires, then you're asking for trouble. You're asking for discomfort. Yeah. So the more that you can start to drive towards helping those around you, you inherently are helping yourself. That's what the Dhammapada says, at least.
That's dude. I just put that down as I'm gonna listen to that little minute that you just said all the time as much as I can.
Oh, good.
Because I really, I think it's a good point. It's a very good point to make. So I've realized, I love your website, and one of the things you quote out saying that how you move through a room is how you move through life. Every moment is an opportunity to cultivate the mind, body, and movement with effective education and intention. Moving well is simple and teachable. These are the steps to making it happen. So could you kind of, expound upon how someone's just like posture can affect their mood?
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, there's heaps of studies that are specifically correlate to that. There's like the pencil study where if you have a pencil in your mouth, it forces you, or not forces you, but yeah, I guess you could say forces you into having like a smiling. You just envision having a pencil in your teeth. You kind of have to smile. So your facial muscles have to go up into that position that sends a stimulus to the rest of your physiology that you're happy, because that for millions of years, you see that throughout all different cultures around the world. I did a podcast with a guy called Paul Ekman recently, where he's like one of the most cited psychologists in the world. He's like, as far as facial expression stuff go, he's like the godfather of the whole thing. And he gets it. He traveled to, I think, Papua New Guinea and various different places to finally determine once and for all whether it was Darwin versus, I forget who the other person was, but there was someone that disagreed with Darwin's perspectives it's a universal facial expression. So universally around the world, no one has to meet each other. We all have these similar mannerisms facial expressions of indicating happiness, indicating success, indicating sadness, indicating all these different things. So it's like, we're all one. We're all tied into this, and our physiology is listening to the expression of our body. So you can start to speak into your hormonal self, your neurotransmitter self, your emotional self, maybe your spiritual self, if you're into that type of language, through the posture of your body, and vice versa. By speaking into all those other elements, you can speak into your physical posture. It's called concomitance, is the fancy term. I think it's like a religious term, but it's when you affect one part, it kind of ripples through the other. Everything's connected. So then there's the other apparent study, which again there's a lot of these, but the other one is the one that was done in Harvard, where they have people standing for just a couple minutes in a hunched over, kind of like defeated position, and then you see that the body releases more cortisol, stress hormone, and ends up decreasing testosterone. And then the inverse happens when they go up into a winning position. So your body's always listening. Something I say is that your cells, they don't have eyes, but they can feel you. So they're not like seeing anything, but they can always feel where you're at in space. And there's another fancy term, mechanotransduction. So when you're always mechanically transducing these different signals through all the cells in your body, dependent upon the way that you move. So it's almost like you're like what are those fellas called? Where the marionette? You're like a little marionette. So there's some thoughts.
Wow. Wow. I think it blows me away that like that power posing is, I think, another language to use, because of this girl that I saw on TED Talks. I'm sure yes, Amy Cuddy, and she speaks about that too. This sort of like how a power pose and using that before you're about to step into a role maybe that you don't often step into. Maybe it's doing a speech on a topic, or maybe it is maybe you're going on an audition if you're an actor, or maybe it's doing something that's just not done all the time. It'll give you the confidence to kind of start fulfilling that role. And I'll plug in definitely in the show notes like a couple of things that people can check out for those power poses. But I interviewed a guy by the name of Tom Aziger, and he actually did a TED Talk about how basically like just too much education is actually hurting us. And I'm gonna bring this up because he even brought up in the TED Talk, he's like, I watched Amy Cuddy's power poses and I put myself into a power pose and I didn't feel any more confident doing this speech. Have you ever tried one of these power poses before one of these big events for yourself, and it didn't really help at all?
No, it's more than that. So that's where the whole power pose stuff leaves off, and that's where I'm. We just signed a book deal this week. We're in the process of like working out the final stuff that's gets into this, amongst other things. And so the power pose is superficial. So they just for even like the smiling with the teeth thing, that's still superficial. So you're not looking at what's the structure of the whole system. So for that structure to really be stacked and truly supported, it needs to be able to rest well in the pelvis and the lumbar spine, and alignment from the hips down through the knees into the feet. In yoga, they talk about like, the various different bandhas, or, Eastern philosophy, Chinese medicine, the chakras, like having alignment throughout that whole system. You could just call it neutral spine if you wanted to just, play purely like Western world. That's totally good too. It's all different languages saying the same stuff, with a little bit of deviation from now and again. But the power pose, the true power pose, is having that power, that stack, that neutrality, that balance, equipoise, integration, any word you want, from the feet up to the top of the head. If your hands are over your head, then it's from your feet up to the top of your hands, right? And once you can find that connection, now you're really getting into like some of the good juju. But until you access that full connection, it's just you really, like they say, fake it till you make it. I would say dig in deeper, truly integrate your system. This doesn't go as well as like a tweet, but truly integrate your whole system, and you're not faking it anymore. But if we just put a Band-Aid over and we just kind of like pull our shoulders back for a minute, the tendency is just to compensate that pattern through the rest of the body. So we really need to slow down a little bit and look at the system as a whole. But then along with that, you truly can affect the physical structure via working with all these different other realms, the concomitance term again. So if that faking it till you make it does make you feel a bit more uplifted for that moment, maybe you do a presentation and like you get a positive feedback that you did great, then that really truly does affect you at an emotional level, which ends up affecting you at a physical level. So there's nothing, just because something doesn't work for somebody doesn't mean that that's bad. It just means it didn't work for somebody. What we as practitioners or writers or content creators, whatever, are doing is just providing options. And any time that you think that one option is the only way, then it becomes like a dogmatic, like religious war, and it gets all weird. It's just options.
Yeah, this is my I don't know, my struggle with the whole. I think the reason why our country, as far as worldwide, is getting fatter, and the statistics are showing that we aren't getting any better. Nonetheless, even though there's more information about how to actually lose weight and how to actually get yourself healthier, why do you think a lot of people oftentimes know what they need to be doing, but they just fall short of doing so?
Why? Well, I mean, so again, there's no one answer. There's just different potential options. One lens that you could look at it from, which is the lens that I'm more biased towards, is that our physical world is a mold towards, if you want to sound kind of like apocalyptic and like conspiracy theory, you could say it's a mold towards subservience. So we get into a subservient yes master position. You're staring at your cell phone, you're hunched over your buckets, or you got your fancy Super WRX or whatever I live in go-to car. Like, cool, I'm like super awesome, I'm wealthy, I'm higher up on the food chain, look at me. Meanwhile, you're actually paying extra money to have this caved in bucket seat that's forming your physical structure and your physiology in every bucket seat, every plane. In the thing. So now we have this disbelief of our potential just by holding ourselves in the position that our modern world forms us to. So I don't remember what the question was exactly, but I think that's a huge component to why we have all the science, we have all the studies, and we have all the facts or whatever of what's happening. Why don't we change? If the body tells you that you're out of control, it's really hard to get the mind to just override that. So I would offer the option of take control of the structure of your body and see if that leads to more confidence, leading you to create better decisions in your day-to-day life.
Oh man, I love it. I think that very last portion of it is the most important thing to really focus in on. So definitely skip back a minute and re-listen to that little portion of what he just said. So I want to go into scratching the surface curiosity questions, where it's more so like questions that I specifically picked out just for you. And I was like, I gotta ask him this. And then also just sort of like rapid fire, like quick 30 seconds or less type answers. So we'll go into that
Sure.
whenever you're ready.
Ready, hit me.
Sick. All right. Well, this is this is more of like a it's a harder question to answer, but have you had like a thought of some sort today where you're kind of ashamed about having, or maybe you feel embarrassed about having it, and it's about yourself, but you know it's just a thought and it doesn't make you who you are?
Yeah, for sure. I have thoughts like that fairly regularly, but I've like I mentioned, I just came back from a clinic, a vein center specialist, and so the kind of role that I put myself in the world is one of helping people with their health. So if there's an issue with my own health, it feels like hypocritical, and so to have that compassion and self-love and acceptance and all that stuff of like, just because you have some type of, badge or whatever, you're still a human. You're still, just a person working through your own shit, just like anybody else. And that actually gives you the power to be able to help people to a greater level. So we kind of feel like we need to be some form of like model of perfection, which ends up actually isolating us from everybody else. So it's like, it's lonely at the top kind of thing, which I'm, not the top of anything, but that's what that phrase is about. When you feel separate from other people, it's not a conversation. And so for me, why have I had this circulation issue in my body since I was a little kid, whatever. But yeah, that's something, having a little bit of like insecurity of like, oh shoot, I need to work on my own health.
Yeah, man. Thanks for sharing that. You are.
Yeah, no worries.
I think it's really tough to be to label yourself as a fitness coach like yourself, and to come to terms with, you still struggle with your own body image and stuff like that, and
yeah, of course.
Gosh, what do you think you've had to sacrifice as far as relationships goes to reach the success that you've had from fitness?
Well, I stopped drinking like 8 or I don't know how many years ago. So that's a thing. A lot of times I have a tendency of not wanting to go out late, and so I'll end up kind of like protecting my nighttime and just kind of trying to take care and think of how do I invest and stay concentrated towards what I want to create. And so with that sacrifice of like doing what I used to consider to be more like the fun thing, now I don't really consider that to be the fun thing. Like to be like drunk and be out at like 1 a.m. sounds like terrible to me actually. But that's been somewhat of a sacrifice. And then also something that I've been interested in working with and digging into deeper is being more, I'm kind of torn whether I have somewhat of like I have a tendency of not going excessively deep with very many people. And I wonder, actually, I should like see a psychotherapist about this or something, but maybe we're just doing it right now. I wonder if that's like protecting as a means of just being really decisive about who I allow in at a deeper way, or if there's some other like fear-based block around there, some like kernel of clenching that's disallowing any type of like full let in. So that's something that I've been kind of pondering on for a little while too.
Ah, man. Geez. It's like I feel like I've listened to so much of your content. To me, you're always able to be very vulnerable in your conversations. But like right now, like actually like hearing you say that kind of stuff is it's opening some stuff up for me too. So.
Good.
Yeah, like you were saying with the Buddha, when you're earlier referencing that, that's why I need to listen to that every single day. Is when you're helping out someone else out, you're healing yourself too. So
you're healing yourself, yeah.
It's amazing. I want to ask you though, what is a guest that you had on? Because I know you've had a lot on, and I'm sure you get this question a lot. But what's a guest that said something on your show that really just like you knew that inside of you didn't want to agree, but you did it anyways, just because of what they were selling and what you were trying to promote.
Oh, I have lots of that. I usually end up kind of just like, I'm not very argumentative on the podcast. I just like to, because I don't think I'm right, so that's like the leading thing. So I just like providing options for people. But I was talking with somebody that I love and have heaps of respect for, and I've read most of his work and super value everything that he says for the most part. But Dr. Stuart McGill, and I talked to him about this in the conversation. I asked about it, but one of the things he mentioned was powerlifters. Essentially, like powerlifters should stay powerlifters, and like yogi stretchy people should stay yogi stretchy people, because it ends up putting more stress on the spine to try to kind of go between both worlds. And I just totally disagree with that. I think it's you end up in science, we end up seeing through a specific lens of what we're looking for, and the results are often dictated by what we're looking for. And I think that when you find someone that their intention is to be more diverse with their movement, it's like a hybrid bicycle. Like, it's not going to be the best road bike or the best mountain bike, but I think you have a totally viable option to be a hybrid bicycle, hybrid body. And so that was something where I was like, what? I think powerlifters totally should be like stretching it out. But that was a thing.
Dude, thanks a lot for sharing that. Like, I was really scared to ask that question just because I didn't want to like make you upset or anything, or like,
Oh no! I mean, I brought that up to Stu but he's like, I don't know if you know who Stu McGill is, but he's like the lord of spinal mechanics. So little old Aaron Alexander, it's not like I'm not gonna like strongly disagree like in his face, but I did disagree. I questioned. I didn't disagree, but I questioned. I'm like, hold on. So,
well, I just find like anybody that has a certain practice that they follow, it's very religious-like, because, I mean, heck, like, I think it's more religious-like than anything else, because what you actually practice, like, as far as movement-wise, or practice through feeding, like, a certain diet, that's why, Layton Norton will say, like, oh, God, there's the intermittent fasting zealots, and there's the keto zealots, and he's not wrong or mean in saying zealots, but I think I think what he's doing is he's just someone that's stirring up someone's actual, not just only beliefs, but what they do during the day, what they're like dedicating and devoting their whole life to. And when you break that down to someone and you try to show them a new way or a different way, that works just as well. Like, that's when arguments happen, So
yeah, I agree.
These last questions are just sort of 30 seconds or less type answers, but I think they're still very valuable. So the first question is, if you could sit down on a bench with just one person, living or alive, or living or dead, who would it be and why?
Shoot, I should have that answer on the ready. That's a standard question. Probably either Jesus or Siddhartha. That's my answer.
I will take that. And I'll also take that noise that you just did, and record that little bit and play it as much as possible to you.
That's the deep thoughts noise.
How do you like to consume content usually? Blogs, podcasts, audiobooks, movies? What's your go-to source?
Books and audiobooks. And documentaries.
Nice. And do you have a current favorite podcast, or is that kind of like impossible right now for you?
What do I like right now? I mean, I like Rogan's. I like when he talks to sciencey people. I don't like when he talks to like comedians and stuff like that all that much. Or like any type of like UFC stuff. Rogan's like so smart, and he's so good at breaking down anybody. So I like when he talks to science related people. podcasts. I've been really loving audiobooks recently, so that's kind of where a lot of my attention's going.
Yeah, dude. Like, oh man, both of those audiobooks are my way of consuming content, and then podcasts. And Joe Rogan, he's the man. You're gonna get on that show one day. I know it.
Yeah, I'd say that for sure. Yeah, we're all in similar like circles, so we like live nearby each other. So hopefully sooner or later. Joe, you listening? Let's do this thing.
Let's do this. I'll send it to his peoples ASAP.
Send to his people.
I got IMDb Pro. I know who his peoples are.
There you go.
The next question is, give us a glimpse of your morning routine, knowing that this is probably not what you do every single day, but this is what you strive for.
Wake up and have first thing, grab some water. I'll throw a little salt in it, and then I am usually at this point wearing like some underwear, a pair of shorts, something like that, and I'll go outside, get as much sun as I possibly can. I'll look at the sun as well. I'll usually go, there's like a tree right in, like near my front door that I'll go and like hang and kind of like do a like mini tree climbing moment. Just stretch out a little bit. And then usually make some tea. That hopefully induces a poop. And then sometimes I would like it to be every day, but sometimes I don't do it. But I have a gratitude journal that I'll do. Most days I do. I did it today. And I would like to add a meditation into that, but so far meditation first thing in the morning hasn't really surfaced yet. I usually like to like walk. I want to like move. And so I'll like clean the house. I'll like sweep everything up. I'll burn some sage. It's like that ends up being my meditation is cleaning the house / that whole jig that I just described.
Dude, I love it. I have a very similar sort of way I do things too. Even the poop action.
Yeah, that's nothing like it.
What is your go-to pump-up song?
I don't have a go-to pump-up song. I have a playlist I listen to called Sexual Chocolate that is got a bunch of random good songs. I don't know why I call it Sexual Chocolate, but there's got a bunch of fun songs on there. I like tribal stuff. I like congos and Amazonian flutes and women singing in languages that I don't know exactly, and then I also like some like kind of like modern like bass thrown on top of that. So anything that kind of has those elements, I think is pretty cool.
Ooh, I love it. I'm gonna check out this playlist. Is it available for
Sexual Chocolate? Maybe. I don't even know. I don't know how Spotify works like that. I share playlists sometimes with specific people, but I don't know. I mean, yeah, find whatever my name is on Spotify is probably Aaron Alexander. Is that what they pay a lot of attention to?
Oh god, that's hilarious. Okay, so just 2 more questions. The one question I need to ask is where is that one place people can find more of you?
That one special place. Well, AlignedTherapy.com that's the main hub of everything. From there, the website, or that website, yeah, obviously you'll find the website on the website, but the podcast, and people can start. There's a 5-day movement challenge if people are curious about learning more about how to integrate more effective movement into everything that they do. That's a great way to start. So yeah, podcast, social media, Aligned Podcast, it's all that. Those are the places.
Yeah, please go to go to his website, because that'll direct you to everything. And I'll put that little website into the show notes, so you can, even on your podcast app, click onto that website link, and you will be forwarded to his podcast, or his podcast and his website. So all goes well.
Bam.
And then last question is, I like to leave the listeners with a sort of self-inquisitive question they can ask themselves throughout the day, just to sort of like reignite that fire maybe, or something. What is a self-inquisitive question you may be asking yourself throughout the day?
Something that I would, a not very deep question that you could ask is this my best position? So is there some way that I can adjust my hips, adjust my feet, adjust my head, my shoulders, or whatever, so that my body is more aligned or stacked? So I've been probably like excessively deep in most of this conversation. So more superficially, / that leads to all the deep stuff too. Is this my best position? My question.
It's funny you say you aren't deep, but yeah, this has been a solid deep question, I think, throughout. And I just want to say, Aaron, like I want to acknowledge you for all the work that you've done, man. Also, just like I do like struggle so much with body image stuff, and just listening to you be so open about that, and also be so open about things that have gone well and then gone wrong. And I mean, there's a plethora of content that you've put out there that just it's not like fake at all, and it's really hard to find that nowadays, is rawness and realness and stuff that's honest. And so it's, especially when you're someone that's online, and as much as I am, just because I live in Springfield, Illinois, but I really look up to people like yourself that are...
Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate it.
Much love and energy goes out to you, and please, if you don't know who this guy is yet, I am so honored to bring your awareness to who he is and what he teaches, because it will change your life, and not only your relationship with your body and yourself, but it'll change your relationships, and in giving yourself permission to truly step into the person that you may want to be one day. So
another thing for folks to look at is the tonality of their voice. So I would recommend people look into like taking like join a choir or a kirtan or some type of like voice related group, because that's another part that spills into the way that you stand, the way that you feel, the way that your whole organism functions. So there's a book called Polyvagal Theory by a guy called Steve Porges that gets into all this stuff. So that's just another little tidbit that's interesting, I think.
Wow. Yeah, I studied acting in college, but we could probably go into that in a different episode about whole voice and how the voice works, and just the whole what you were just talking about. What did you refer to? Start with a V, right?
Polyvagal theory.
Polyvagal, that was it. Polyvagal. I want to look at that more, and maybe we'll do another episode on that one of these days, because I really don't want you to just be one of these guests that I have on just once, but multiple times, because of what you're doing. That would be an honor.
Yeah, stay in contact.
All right. Until then, thank you so much again, Aaron, for being on the episode.
Yeah, brother, no worries. Anytime.
All right, there's another episode of Scratch Your Own Itch. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to support the show by listening. The biggest compliment you could ever pay me is just by sharing this, because honestly, it doesn't take much, and it feels so good when people create something and take time. And when I see someone take time to create something that really just changed my day, either made me feel less alone, maybe put a smile on my face, made me laugh, made me feel wiser, I always want to share it with the world. Because why? When I share something that resonates with me, why not share it? I mean, that's just kind of the thing that goes around, and it's free. It takes no time at all other than just a click of the button, share, on either Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Any of those social media platforms would be great to share this. So I really appreciate it. And I want to say that anybody who's looking to gain authority or expertise in their area, and they don't want to take another year or year and a half to write a book and wait until that's published, I think the best way is right now is to start a podcast. So if you're at all interested in starting a podcast, if you meet the certain requirements, I would love to help you with a podcast and also get a website going for you as well. And this is not an easy task. It's hard to actually get it done and get it out there. So every now and then we need some help, and I'm here for you. So please reach me at Logan at LoganTylerNelson.com if you're interested at all. And don't ever forget, you matter and you're enough.